guys, welcome and welcome back. This week I wanted to talk to you about something that comes up a lot, especially if you are new to owning reptiles, and that is, why is my reptile not eating? Honestly, there are a lot of different reasons that your reptile might not be eating, and I just wanted to kind of go over a few of those. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to name every single reason, but I did want to go ahead and say that if for any reason you think your animal might be sick, then you need to take them to the vet, but these are just some other reasons that they might not be eating. So the first one, and the most common, is if you just got your snake or lizard or whatever animal that you have, they probably won't eat for a few days or maybe even a week. And that's just because moving to a new home could be really stressful, and that move and that stress might make them not want to eat that week or those couple days. Especially if your animal's a baby, you got to remember that you are huge to them and they're not used to being around a huge creature, and they don't understand that you're just trying to feed them. So it may take them a little bit to get settled in. And if your animal was shipped to you or you drove it a really long ways from a reptile show or whatever, that stress and driving and movement and all that causes a bunch of stress. So if you just got your animal a few days ago and you're wondering why they're not eating, that's probably why. If you've been feeding your animal the same thing over and over again, they might just be tired of the food. I know with Zaz, if I feed her crickets over and over, or if I feed her dubia roaches over and over, if I'm not changing up what she's eating, then she'll just flat out refuse to eat it. And the same thing with Percy. For the longest time, the only thing that she would eat was mealworms, and then one day she just kind of stopped, and I started giving her crickets and waxworms, and then she started eating her mealworms again. So just like with humans, we wouldn't want to eat the same thing constantly over and over throughout our entire lives, and reptiles are the same way. With the exception of like ball pythons, who are obviously just going to eat rats, lizards just need variety sometimes. One of the big things you need to look for if your animal is not eating is make sure that their hotspot is at the right temperature. Reptiles are cold-blooded, so in order to digest their food correctly, they have to thermoregulate their own temperatures, and that means going from the hot side to the cool side, and if their hot side isn't the right temperature, that means they can't digest their food, and so they'll probably stop eating. Recently with Sylvanas, she went a week without eating, which is weird. If you watch my previous videos, you know that she eats always. She will eat every single week without hesitation, and she refused her food, and we were trying to figure out why, because with her, refusing her food is kind of alarming. So we checked her hotspot, and her heat pad actually stopped working. So temperatures are a huge thing that you need to look for if your animal's not eating. Just make sure that you have a temperature gun and you are making sure that that hot spot is exactly where it needs to be, and not eating is a way that your animals will kind of tell you if their temperatures are not correct. If your snake or lizard is about to shed, sometimes they won't eat. Percy will not eat the week that she sheds because she eats the shed that comes off, and also shedding is a very stressful event for your animal. It's itchy, it's dry skin that they're having to pull off, and with snakes they go blind for a couple days. It's not a fun thing, so it stresses them out, and sometimes they don't eat. With the exception of Sylvanas, who always eats, my snakes will not eat if they are about to shed, and the way that you can tell that is their bodies will start looking cloudy and milky, or the colors will just be off. With snakes, their bellies will turn a pink color, their eyes will get hazy. Any of those things, if your animal isn't eating accompanied by that, then they're probably going to shed and they're probably fine. Make sure that you're paying attention to when your animals poop. If they haven't pooped in a little while, give them a warm bath and try to get that going, because just like humans, if we don't poop for a while, we don't want to eat because there's no room in there. So make sure you're paying attention to that, because my bearded dragon, if she doesn't go in a little while, then she doesn't eat. And I always know that that's the reason, because that's one of the few reasons that she refuses to eat. Just make sure you're paying attention to that. If you're spot cleaning the tank every day, then that's something that's going to be very obvious to you. But like I said, just give them a warm bath and that should get things going, and then they should eat either immediately or the next day. This one you might have to research a little bit. If your reptile is a female and it is around egg laying season, mating season, stuff like that, then there is a possibility that they could be gravid or egg bound even if they've never been in contact with a male. This is especially true for bearded dragons and leopard geckos, crested geckos. Even if they've never been in contact with a male in their entire lives, they could be carrying infertile eggs, and when that happens, sometimes they will eat, and then they will go without eating when it's about time to lay those eggs. This one is one that you need to research a lot and make sure that, number one, it is around their egg laying season. Number two, that your animal can even become gravid if they've never been in contact with a male. And if it's looking like that may be the case, number three, you need to make sure you are providing them with an acceptable place to lay those eggs. If you watched my story time video about Zaz and her egg binding a while ago, you know that it could be really, really bad if your animal doesn't have the proper place to lay her eggs. It could cause you to have to get them very expensive surgery, or their eggs could burst and they could die. There's a whole list of terrible things that could happen. So if that is the case, make sure you are providing them everything that they need so that they can properly lay those eggs. Although it may sound weird, sometimes reptiles go through phases. So with bearded dragons and leopard geckos, they'll sometimes go through a teenage phase almost, where they just don't want to eat. Both Percy and Zaz have gone through this, and my crested gecko kind of went through this, but his was the opposite, where he only wanted to eat bugs and he would attack the glass as I walked past it if I did not open it and give him bugs, and he would bite me, and he was terrible. But with Percy and Zaz, they both went through these phases where they just didn't want to eat. I even took Percy to the vet during that time, and they did a bunch of tests, and they were like, nope, she's fine. She's just going through a phase. And kind of along the same lines, Sterling will do the same thing, where he'll go a week or two without eating just because he wants to be held that week. If I put food in front of him, he will go around the food and try to get out because he wants to be taken out and held. So things like that do happen. They can be very worrisome, and I always end up taking my animals to the vet when that happens, except for the snakes, just because I get worried. So if that happens and your animal's still being completely normal otherwise, they are still acting like themselves, they're not acting lethargic or sick, they aren't losing weight, they are just completely being 100% their normal selves, they're just not eating, then that's probably the case. Even though it's super weird, that is something that some reptiles go through. But if your animal is acting weird and not eating, they're being lethargic, they're sleeping a lot, they're acting kind of nippy and bitey where they've never been that way before, then you should definitely take them to the vet and have them looked at, because they could have parasites. Bearded dragons are one that are very prone to parasites because most of them are going to eat crickets, and crickets carry parasites. If that is the case, that's not something that you should just wait around to see if it's going to get better. They're going to need medication to get rid of those parasites, and they're only going to get worse and start losing more and more weight. So, like I said in the beginning, if you think that your animal is sick and they are acting weird in any way while they're not eating, you need to take them to the vet. There are certain vets that specialize in reptiles, and you're going to want to try to find one of those if possible. Unfortunately, not all veterinarians that see dogs and cats are going to see reptiles. And if you need to take your animal to the vet and you don't have money, a lot of vets here in the United States at least accept something called Care Credit, and you can go online and it's a credit card for vets and dentists and stuff like that. That's what we always use. In my reptile hacks saving money video, I forgot to include that, and I put it down in the description. Definitely try to do that if your animal needs to go to the vet and you can't afford it, because it can save a lot of stress, and yeah, you can get your animal their vet care. I'm in no way, shape, or form sponsored or affiliated with them. It's just something that I use, and it's helped me out so much over the years with all of my animals. If it is winter time or the temperature in your house has dropped recently, your animal might be going into hibernation or brumation. Reptiles in the wild will hibernate or brumate during the winter season because there's less access to food and the things that they need, so they hibernate. Almost all reptiles will hibernate if, like I said, the temperature in your house drops. If the temperature stays the same in your house year round, then most likely they won't hibernate. Sometimes bearded dragons will brumate anyway, or they'll have a short brumation, or they'll just kind of get lazy. But that is a thing that is very possible to happen if your reptile is an adult. If this happens, you need to take them to the vet to get tested for parasites beforehand, because if they're going to be hibernating or brumating for a while and they have parasites, those parasites are just going to sit in there and multiply, and it's going to make your animal really sick. So it's important to have them tested for parasites beforehand, just to make sure. And once they're cleared and they're hibernating, then you just kind of leave them alone until they come out and are ready to eat and rejoin the world again. As strange as it may seem, especially for snakes who only eat once a week, sometimes they're just not hungry. Again, this is one of those things that if they are completely acting normal and not doing anything weird at all, and they just don't want to eat that day or that week, then they're probably fine. They're probably just not hungry. I know with Sterling, we downsized his rats to small rats. He was eating medium because he is an adult ball python. But with the mediums, he would eat one and he would be super hesitant about it, and then he wouldn't want to eat for 2 or 3 weeks. And ever since we downsized him to small, he eats every week and he seems full and happy when he does. So that led us to believe that with the medium rats, he was getting over full, which may seem like a good thing, but it kind of made him a little sluggish and slow, and they were just too big of rats for him. And with a lot of lizards, you only need to feed them every other day. So if you're feeding them every day and you notice that they are not wanting to eat that much every day, or they're just skipping days, then that might be why. Which isn't bad at all. It's never bad to offer your reptile food, even if they don't want it, as long as they're not overweight. But if they're not hungry, they're just not gonna eat it. And that's about all I have for this one, guys. I want to stress again, if you feel like your animal is acting weird in any way at all and they're not eating, then please, please, please find a vet and take them to that vet, because you don't want to just hope that your animal is going through a phase and then them actually be really, really sick. So please, if you have any doubt in your mind that they're not just being weird or not hungry or anything like that, please, please, please take them to the vet. But anyways, that is about it. I hope that helped you at least a little bit if you're having some difficulties with some difficult animals. If you're not already following me on Instagram, you can follow me over there at l.622, where I really attempt to post pictures of my animals throughout the week. Not been doing the best job, but I've been posting like one a week, so there's an extra one. Also, I haven't been doing the best at my Instagram shout outs lately because I had pre-recorded a whole bunch of videos leading up to me having my baby, and I had him. So I'm back on track now, so I wanted to give a few Instagram shout outs that I have missed. So I wanted to give a shout out to Tay's World of Reptiles, Classy Colubrids, Family of Scales and Tails, and Adventures of Ollivander for going through and liking a whole bunch of stuff on my Instagram. You guys are the bee's knees. And if you like this video, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button below. I put out new videos every single Sunday. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a fantastic day. Bye.